Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Volume 3 of Spinjitzu Brothers, known as The Maze of the Sphinx. In case you guys don't know what Spinjitzu Brothers is, I don't blame you. Apparently a lot of people don't even know that the series actually exists. Spinjitzu Brothers is a series of novels set before the events of the Ninjago TV series. This is a canon prequel to the main Ninjago storyline, and it is worth reading in my opinion. And I've already done videos on Volume 1 and Volume 2 several months ago when those books were actually released. Admittedly, these books do kind of take a long time in between releases, and maybe that's part of the reason why people don't really get hyped up for this series, but I'd recommend reading through the series if you guys have time. They're very good books, including Volume 3, which we're going to be talking about in today's video. In today's video, my goal is to give you guys my quick thoughts as to how Volume 3 continues the story, and whether or not the book is actually worth a read. Before we dive on into the details though, I must give you guys a quick spoiler warning. This review will in fact contain spoilers for pretty much all of the volumes of Spinjitzu Brothers, so once again, if you have not read these books just yet, including Volume 3, I'd recommend checking them out. They're pretty easy to find on websites such as Amazon and Barnes & Noble, if you are indeed interested in experiencing a Ninjago prequel. So without further ado, why don't we jump on into my thoughts on Volume 3 of Spinjitzu Brothers, The Maze of the Sphinx. So the book itself is basically continuing the story of Wu and Garmadon's younger years. They are continuing to find a cure for Garmadon's Great Devourer bite, and they come across the Maze of the Sphinx. It's kind of built off of a very obscure village in the Ninjago landmass, and the whole deal with the Maze of the Sphinx is that if you somehow navigate the maze successfully, you can get a wish. And of course, Wu and Garmadon, being as young and naive as they are, they realize, hey, you know what we can do with this? We can use that wish to possibly cure Garmadon of his evilness following the bite of the Great Devourer. And that's basically the premise of this book. They try to navigate the maze in hopes of getting that wish towards the very end. Does it go as planned? Well, yes and no. The main thing that I enjoyed about this book was seeing Wu and Garmadon's relationship and just how unstable it really is. This is the book where you can tell that their relationship will not last very long, as we eventually saw in the Ninjago TV series when they eventually had their falling out. The negativity is especially true following Garmadon, who is very much at odds with Wu throughout this novel, especially following the meeting of a brand new character named Shizada? Shizada? Either way, she's a brand new character. Both Wu and Garmadon have a crush on her. You can see where this is going, I'm sure. Garmadon has some major jealousy going on here in this story, and he has some really dark thoughts in this novel. There's a couple of moments in the book where you can see the clock ticking until Garmadon eventually does snap. At several points throughout the novel, he does contemplate leaving Wu trapped in the maze, and overall it's pretty scary. Seeing Garmadon contemplate leaving his brother trapped in the maze forever and just running off with this new character, I really like that because it shows that Garmadon, even though he still is technically a good guy here, that evil from the Great Devourer's venom is slowly taking over his body and his mind. And this book may in fact be the first time in the series where we truly see the relationship between Wu and Garmadon begin to fall off. Also, to add insult to injury, there's a very peculiar scene in this book where Garmadon sees a reflection in a very familiar sounding mirror showcasing his future evil self as a four-armed Oni warlord. And I think that sequence was probably my favorite part of the entire book. It messes him up pretty good during the story, and you can see that Master Wu also senses that his brother is slowly turning, but there's not much that he can do about it. They're desperately trying to find the cure somewhere in Ninjago, and maybe a wish from the Sphinx could finally solve all of their problems and save their relationship. The story is mainly told from Garmadon's perspective, and it's basically his storyline, aside from a few plot points in this novel revolving around Wu, like for example at one point during the storyline Wu gets poisoned and needs to get bit by a spider to cure his poison. Yes, that's how it works in this novel. Otherwise, Garmadon is basically front and center here, and me being a huge Garmadon fan, I liked seeing Garmadon struggle with himself. That's usually the go-to for Garmadon characterization, but I feel like in this story especially, seeing Garmadon's thoughts and feelings before he eventually did turn evil, what can I say, that was a very interesting thing to read about. Also, as I've mentioned, we do have a brand new character in this novel, Shizada. As I said, I'm going to be calling her Shizada. Not sure exactly how her name is pronounced once again, but she's a pretty cool character. She basically lives in the maze of the Sphinx. She maps out the entire maze, returns to her home base, eats lizards in the maze itself. It's a pretty good time. She meets up with Wu and Garmadon. They decide to work together. The three of them have a very awkward relationship, but we'll talk about that soon enough. And eventually she gets turned into a zombie at one point after they complete the entire maze, but Garmadon and Wu, in all of their wisdom, use their one wish to cure her, and I enjoyed that. It shows that even though Garmadon is slowly turning evil, there still is that sympathetic side to him. I enjoyed where the story ended, and Shizada, she left Wu and Garmadon for parts unknown, but according to Master Wu towards the very end of the book, they eventually did meet again, which honestly is a little bit confusing to me. The entire Shizada character is very similar to Misako, especially with the idea that Wu and Garmadon both have a crush on her and are constantly trying to one-up each other in an attempt to basically win her affection perfection to impress her. She's also a very mysterious character. I was half expecting the character to be revealed to actually be Misako, but that never really happened. In the epilogue of this story, Master Wu said that he and Shizada did meet again at some point, and in my opinion, they sort of allude to the fact that maybe this character and Misako are one and the same, but I could not tell you for certain. Maybe she has some type of relation to Misako, who's to say? But hey, overall, I just thought it was similar to Misako. Maybe there's a reason for that, maybe not. I imagine we'll find out at some point in the future of this series. The book also introduces several new enemies and animals into the world of Ninjago, builds up that world even further, and I always appreciate good world building in the Ninjago series, especially in the historical context of Spinjitzu Brothers. Combining Ninjago history with Ninjago world building, I can't resist that. That's really good stuff there. I'm a big fan of both of those things, and they work together beautifully to make this book work. The story also ties itself in with the Sphinx that we saw in the Explorers Club, most recently in Ninjago Seabound, and that's pretty cool too, showing that this storyline is indeed worth reading. It does connect to the show in some way, and overall, Volume 3 of Spinjitzu Brothers basically solidifies itself as a must-read for all Ninjago fans, especially if you want to understand the full context of the Ninjago story and its history. The book takes a deep dive into the history of Wu and Garmadon, and I enjoyed seeing the start of their relationship's downfall, especially with Garmadon growing more and more evil by the day. It also doesn't help that we have a new character that they're both fighting over again, similar to Misako. Overall, I really enjoyed Spinjitzu Brothers Volume 3, The Maze of the Sphinx. Really good storyline, really good stuff here. Again, just continuing the Spinjitzu Brothers story in a really positive direction. Well, not positive for the characters of Wu and Garmadon, but positive for the experience. Positive for the Ninjago fans reading through this novel, and connecting things back to the Ninjago TV series that we all know and love. This may be my favorite Spinjitzu Brothers book so far. I really enjoyed reading through it, and once again, I would highly recommend this book and the entire Spinjitzu Brothers series to all Ninjago fans. These are definitely worth a read. Overall, I'm going to give Spinjitzu Brothers Volume 3 a 10 out of 10 in terms of a score. Really liked it, not much to complain about there. Just some confusing things that I imagine were confusing on purpose. We'll probably find out about these things later on in the series. I'm not going to look too far into it. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have read Spinjitzu Brothers Volume 3, let me know down below in the comments what you thought about it. If you have not read it just yet, you guys probably should. Once again, I would highly recommend it. Leave our thoughts down below in the comments, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and that'll pretty much do it for my thoughts here today. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and as always, check out the links down below in the description from other forms of social media. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody. My name is TannerFishies, and with that, I bid you farewell.